This video is going to give you a quick and early guide when it comes to Ultron, which is the new hero for season 2.5. We've got early access, so we want to share all the details that we know about this hero with you today. So let's start off with this primary attack, and we're going to go over how it actually works. So essentially you're dealing a bit of damage to begin with, and then it has a bigger blast at the end. And what that means is if you want to get the most amount of damage from this, you need to stay on track of the target. You need to be able to track them very, very well to get the maximum amount of damage, because tracking a moving target is going to be way more difficult than those stationary bots here. And they've designed it in a way where if you acquire kind of a bit later, you're going to get a bit more value than if you acquire straight away. So let's say you're on target to begin with and then you lose target, the end part of damage is more valuable than the beginning, to be honest, especially if you're just trying to get some quick kills and some quick elims. You're better off missing the first part and then making sure you land the second part of your shot. Is that this has an unlimited range, so, and it's hit scan too. Now it does have a damage fall off, so as you can see here, it took 3 bursts to take down a squishy character. So as you can see here, for landing every single shot, it's now going to take 3 bursts instead of 2. But regardless of that, it's hit scan and it has infinite range, so it's a pretty powerful primary attack. The next ability Ultron has is his overshield wall, which you need to be really close to a teammate for. And as you can see, anyone who the wall touches, it grants them a slight amount of overshield for a short period of time. It will then disappear, so as you can see here, we can grant that overshield there to the teammate, but you need to be very close. The range on this is not that far at all, unless you combine it with his other abilities, which we'll get on into in just a moment. But if you try and overshield someone in front of you, it just gives you the overshield and it doesn't reach your teammates, unfortunately. His other ability he has is his dash. So if you're aiming in a direction, you can dash in that way, and you also get a movement speed boost, as you can see, for 8 seconds, and you got overshields as well. And this is just a good escape tool to stay away from dive, or just to kind of get out of a situation. Now we're getting on into Ultron's main part of his kit, and that's his drone. So as you can see here, the drone sits next to your teammate and it sits on them with this big radius right here, and it provides constant healing, not healing over time, not a burst of healing. This is just always on healing all the time. It doesn't go away. Now, the amount of healing you get from it is not a lot, to be honest. Now, what it also does is provides you healing as well. So if you're taking damage and you're within the radius, so next to your teammate, then you can also get healed up in this area as well. And it also works with any teammates that are within the radius as well. So as you can see, this bot is also getting healed up by the same amount. So now, one way you can break this is that if you go too far out of range of your teammates, so if you go too far out of range, which will go all the way over here, this, after a couple of seconds, will break. As you can see, it's disappeared. So now it's no longer there. It's no longer healing your teammates anymore. So if you're out of range, then it's no longer going to work. So you need to kind of stay relatively close. You don't need to stay inside the bubble. You can just stay at a decent range and it'll always be there. So if you stay around about this distance away, we don't know the exact number. Now, the other thing you can do with this is actually combine it with your shield wall. So anyone that is now inside the radius of this, and because the shield wall only has that limited range like we mentioned earlier on, if you provide the shield wall whilst you have your drone, it's going to then give it to your teammates as well. Now, I don't think that's how this should have worked, to be honest. I think if the wall hit any teammates over maybe like a 10 to 20 meter distance, it should just give them shields. It would make Ultron a little bit stronger in terms of healing. So Ultron's final ability is his ultimate, which basically allows him to deal tons of damage in a blast area, but it also heals up teammates as well. So if teammates and enemies are standing close together, you can actually heal and deal damage at the exact same time, as you can see right here. Now, what's pretty cool about this is that you can actually use his dash as well at the exact same time to grant yourself overshields to stay alive a little bit longer. So that's a pretty cool way to use this ultimate, and basically add in the dash there to make sure you don't die during this ultimate phase, and you're also CC immune throughout the whole entire ultimate phase as well. When it comes to combos and tips with Ultron, there is one tip I'd like to give, and that is just for staying alive a little bit longer if you need to do that. And the best way to do this is essentially to use his shield wall for yourself and then dash, and it grants you tons of overshield to stay alive. And you can use this in a pinch if you need to stay alive, especially because you don't really have many ways to escape dive. And that combo there is really good, and you want to use it in that order: wall, then dash, and that means you get the movement boost as well. Getting on into the gameplay section and how you actually want to play Ultron, I think I've got a good understanding of the kind of playstyle they want you to have when you're playing Ultron, and he definitely fits a very strategist role. His healing output is really not that strong, even though it may seem like constant healing all the time and it's always on, and if you stay near it is not going to get destroyed. It sounds pretty broken, but the amount of healing you get from it is really not going to offset tons of damage, so just keep that in mind when you are playing Ultron. It will keep your teammate alive a lot longer than they should be alive, but it's not going to offset like loads of damage that you can do healing with maybe a Luna Snow or an Invisible Woman. It's not that kind of healing. Right, this is going to make way for a bit more of a triple support meta in my opinion, because of the amount of damage Ultron can output and the fact that he is a flying hero. But like I said, you need to kind of play around that. So when it comes to putting his drone, you want to put it on a tank, specifically the ones that can't really move too quickly, and it allows your team to use them as a beacon, and they can sit near them and get that extra health when they need it. So it acts your tank as a healer essentially, if that makes any sort of sense whatsoever. So that's the way you want to kind of use it. Now you can also use it on a dive teammate, but you need to kind of be close to them at all times when you're doing that. You don't need to be exactly near them because we kind of showed you how far the range you have, but if you do want to put it on a dive hero, you kind of need to be playing with that dive hero so that you're getting the benefits of the drone as well. So he's probably one of the best strategist to enable dive in my opinion, or probably if not the best, and I think that's a good addition to the strategist roster at the moment, because we don't have anything like this at the minute. Now being a flying hero means you are a sitting duck as well, so I do need to mention that basically you can get taken out the sky pretty easily, especially because you don't have tons of health or shield, and even when you do have your movement boost, you're not really flying around as quickly as maybe someone like an Iron Man can. So just keep that in mind when you are in the air. And like I said, you do want to be close to your teammates with Ultron, because that is basically how he's going to be played. Then when it comes to using his damage output, you can get decent kills with this, but you need to learn how to track. If you're not learning how to track enemies, then you're really missing out on a lot of damage potential. And if you don't learn how to track, at least make sure you get that end burst on the enemy, because that is the highest damage impact of his ability. So it's essentially in two parts. You get the laser and then you get the kind of explosive bit at the end, and you want to be making sure that you're always landing the explosive bit at the end, because that is where most of the damage is coming from. But like I said, the most value you'll get is learning how to track, and obviously you want to be tracking those squishy targets as well, because not only is your attack hit scan and you can basically see right through to the enemy team's backline, which I think is pretty ridiculous on how strong his ability is if you've got good aim. You can literally see, like I said, through to the other enemy team's backline and snipe out a strategist from the enemy team, which I think is pretty cool because you can basically two-shot. And when it comes to his wall ability, you kind of want to hit as many people as you can with that. So obviously make sure your drone's out first, then use the wall ability, then you get overshields for yourself and for the teammates that are sitting within the bubble as well. And I think that's the best way to use it. And if you just see anyone kind of low HP, or you've got a teammate that needs to win a fight and they're struggling for HP, then obviously you just pop that overshield, make sure they stay alive, and that is the way you want to use it. And you kind of want to use it basically as often as possible, because your teammates will always have overshield if they're sitting within your drone essentially. So you want to just basically keep popping it as often as you can. That is the other way you can use it. Now when it comes to its ultimate, it's pretty self-explanatory. You want to make sure it is a big cluster of where your teammates and enemies are close together, and you want to just pop your ultimate and fire down that damage, because not only are you dealing damage, but you're also healing, and the amount of damage you do deal is quite a lot. And like I said, you can always combo it with your dash ability to make sure you don't die yourself, but also keep in mind that you are CC immune as well, so no one can grapple you out of your ultimate or do anything crazy whilst you're within your ultimate, so you're safe in that aspect, but you can still die, so just keep that in mind. But that is all of the advice we can give you for Ultron when it comes to day one. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much for watching.